Welcome to another episode of Random Rambling, starring your random ramblers, themes, and ESP. Here we go.
ESP.
ESP.
That is me. Pronunciation guide pinned on my Twitter.
Yep. Yeah, it's not ESP. We're not.
Oh man,
right?
the number of views on that video, that audio clip, is about to surpass the number of followers that I have.
Ooh, nice.
Which is kind of sad, but oh well.
Well, you know, milestones, right? Even if they're sad milestones.
Yeah, my follower count is steadily growing, but I mean it's like a snail's pace. And we're already on a tangent.
Did you? Okay, sorry, I was just opening up Twitter. Did you see Charlie's one of his latest posts?
Let me look. Moist.
Twitter has turned you into a fucking loser.
Wait, what?
So
Twitter's turned you into a fucking loser. Nice.
Classic.
Can't.
He's not wrong.
Okay, I'm retweeting his second most recent one. Can't believe milk is stored in the titties. What a crazy place for milk to hide. That's a good one. I love Twitter so much. It's like
the one you retweeted yesterday was sex ed implies the existence of sex ed and sex eddy.
Yeah.
I was laughing at that.
Oh man.
That's when Twitter's the best, honestly, is when it's just like dumb little jokes like that and not like people like arguing about stupid shit.
Yeah. I think my Twitter feed is like 80% shit post, 20% serious post.
Yeah.
Which is a good balance.
I stopped arguing as much, mainly just because you kept running into like the same arguments. Because like, how many times can you point out like, I don't know, some idiots like talking about like,
oh yeah,
minimum wage, right?
Trump and like,
yeah.
Oh man, yeah, like September through February was like really political.
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
Anyway, so that was. This is the fun podcast where we never get serious about anything. Now,
never.
Cut it out. Let's just.
There was a Hank Green video a few months ago where he talked about how I forget the actual content, so I'm gonna paraphrase this or rephrase this in a way that makes sense to me. So I may be completely off, but he made this video basically saying how Twitter is basically the perfect platform for discourse. And this is like the culmination of all the technology that we've come up with over thousands of years, and like Twitter itself is basically the entire world talking to each other in like one big group chat. If you stretch the definition of group chat, that's basically what it is. It's the entire world talking with each other on a platform, and like there's so many different diverse opinions. There's so many different clusters of people. Like there's our community, which is memes and shit posts, and then there's like there's so many communities. There's finance, there's cooking, there's like individual countries have their own communities. It's such a beautiful concept, and we're all figuring it out in real time. We're figuring out how to have global discourse in real time, and it's really scary because we get in these really divisive political arguments, and there's like racial tension and political tension. LGBTQ is like blossoming, and like there's so much going on, and this is a reflection of where our society is right now, and it's really exciting to see where it's going to go in the future. But that kind of ties into our topic, which is, has science gone too far? Is creating a global discourse platform um, going too far? Is this going to be the end of humanity?
See, I feel like there's a lot of good that's come from like this type of stuff.
Yeah,
There's a lot more. There's a lot more eyes on. I mean, on us obviously as well, but also on people in power, which kind of helps for accountability type stuff.
yeah. Well,
You'll notice that
what's your
obviously
opinion on cancel culture? Since that's kind of related.
I think it depends. I think if it's anything joke related, I don't really care. Usually my thing when it comes to whatever is if it actually affects your job.
Yeah,
So like say I don't know some voice actors being creepy with a kid or something, right?
yeah,
First, that's not cool anyways. But two, it also affects their job because part of their job is like like going to conventions and stuff. Obviously, not too much in the pandemic, but whatever the fuck, you get the point.
yeah.
So that would directly affect their line of work. So like, yeah, fire him because you got
Uh,
to think there's people too. Like, like say someone gets convicted of like, robbery or fucking or murder or whatever, right? And
yeah,
eventually they get, oh, it's like, okay, those people. I mean, I know it's not the same thing as cancel culture.
yeah,
Like the people that are terrible, they still need a place in society to like be able to work and provide for themselves if they can. Obviously, some people can't, but
yeah.
for the people that can, they need some place. As long as they're not doing something that's like affecting their job, like, I don't really see a problem with it.
So I'm super liberal, and I'm all for keeping people accountable. I think one part where I diverge, in my opinion, from like the extreme left. Um, I think the extreme left is basically of the mindset that if someone said something or did something problematic, then there's no path for redemption for them. I
Yeah, fuck.
I think I, I I think I take issue with that just because if I were to put myself in the shoes of someone that made some mistake, I'm I'm like super mindful of making sure that nothing I say is problematic. Like obviously I say stuff that's really problematic, like from a shit post point of view, like my Twitter banner right now is the jizz whiz, and I recently tweeted the croc stay on during sex. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about like if someone says something racist or homophobic.
Yeah,
Um, I think from the perspective of someone who's pansexual, so I'm in this I'm in this intersectionality on that dimension. I think from that perspective, uh, I, I really have a soft spot for homophobes as someone who grew up uh, in a super religious setting where homophobia was basically the norm. And as someone who's kind of recently gone through this journey of realizing that I'm basically pansexual, so that basically means like um, for those that don't know what that means, it's like bisexual, except it's kind of more open and permissive. Like I care about the person. I don't care about their gender or their appearance or their anything like that. Like I care about the person. So that's how I express pansexuality. And so like from the perspective of someone who's in that dimension, I I think that like there's so much that goes into a person becoming the person that they are,
yeah,
like especially like specifically a homophobe. Like there's so many things from like religion and childhood and upbringing that contribute to that, and um, I think there should be a path for redemption for everyone. If the person wants to be redeemed, then there should be a path for redemption for them, and that's my perspective as someone from one of those marginalized groups.
yeah. I would agree with that perspective. I mean, it's obviously important that the person makes like an depending on what they did, right?
Yeah, I think there should definitely be consequences, but there should be a path for redemption.
I feel like they need to make like an actual like tangible effort, right? So
Yeah,
like that, but as long as they're doing that, then I'm cool with like maybe not like giving you necessarily the benefit of the doubt, but like not giving you the most uncharitable, whatever, right?
yeah. At the same time, I at the same time, I think Okay, well, this is probably going to be controversial. I think that like the perspective of someone who's pansexual is as valid as the perspective of someone who's just homosexual. Even though the struggles of someone who's homosexual is kind of more intense because they're kind of they're kind of ostracized even more so
Yeah.
in some regards. But at the same
Right.
time, like I've personally gone through so much mental turmoil growing up. Like like I suppressed my sexuality so much because like you know my parents have said homophobic stuff, towards me that it kind of suppressed it. My friends have said stuff, extended family. Like there's so much oppression that happened that basically caused this to be suppressed for me. Um, so I think my perspective is just as valid as anyone else in the LGBTQ community. That might be a little controversial, but I think that it kind of like if someone takes issue with that, then I consider them to be the kind of person that would participate in bi erasure, which I think is extremely
Yeah, that,
heinous.
I was gonna bring that up, so I'm glad you did, because I've definitely seen some like you're not a real ex, like say
Yeah,
for example you're dating a girl right now, right? So it'd be
yeah,
like some person would be like, oh well, you're not really,
yeah, and it's
and
monogamous, so like yeah, like my sexuality is like it, I wouldn't say it's irrelevant right now. It basically completes me. Like there's parts of my sexuality that are personal to me,
right.
and I think that's perfectly compatible with like being in a heterosexual relationship with someone. But yeah, back to the bi erasure thing.
I don't fuck, I had something there and I lost it.
That's my
So
bad.
no, no, that's fine. You power to you, man. We'll
Yeah,
be done with all the biphobes out there when
yeah. I just think that I just think that
because okay,
um
so there's like a culture of people that think like, and I can't say that nobody's done this. I'm sure there are some people that do it, but like the idea of like, oh, you're just saying you are to be trendy, right, or get points of being this marginalized group. But it's like at the same time, it's like a lot of this stuff. It's like people are trying to figure this shit out. You know what I mean?
have I talked about the short story The Egg on Random Ramblings yet?
If you have, I don't recall.
Okay, so The Egg is a short story, and the basic premise is that someone dies, and they end up in the afterlife, and they meet this other being, and the being says, "You died, and I'm gonna send you back," and so basically they get to talking some more, and I'm doing a horrible job at paraphrasing this, but basically the other being tells them that they two are the only two beings in the universe. And so when that person is being sent back, they're being sent back to some point in space and time, like, and they become someone else. So this is like aligned with, you know, beliefs in reincarnation. And so
Yeah,
but basically the idea is like every single person that's ever lived on Earth is the same person. It's all just one soul. It's all just one person. And every time you die, you go back and you become another person. And so not only are you all the great people, like your Abraham Lincoln, your Gandhi, your Jesus, you're every good person, but you're also every bad person. You're Hitler, you're Stalin, you're Trump.
yeah.
um, whoops, whoopsie. But
How do you get political? He's
whoopsie.
obviously the savior of the universe.
That
Like,
slipped out.
you can
Whoopsie.
criticize him, but you're not allowed to criticize anything actually about him
but yeah,
because
but yeah,
you're gonna live.
but yeah, the basic idea is that whenever you do something nice for someone, you're doing something nice for yourself, and whenever you do something bad to someone, you're doing something bad to yourself. And so, you know, th- this concept is external to our observable universe. So there's no way to prove or disprove that this is how things work, but it's an
Right.
interesting thought experiment to think about, because the end
That does sound
result the end result of like having this perspective on life is that you will want to treat everyone with respect and dignity. And so that's my philosophy for life. I want to I think every single person on the planet is valid. They are who they are because of their life experiences. good or bad, and
Right.
and I think obviously there should be consequences for things that people do, and obviously Hitler was a terrible person, and honestly, like, well, what's done is done. They didn't have a path for redemption, and I think a path for redemption for them would be like infinitesimally, like remote. But the idea is like everyone is valid, even if they're bad, and that doesn't mean that we should support their bad behavior, but it does mean they're a human being just like us. They're where they are because of their life experiences, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Well,
saying Hitler's good. I'm absolutely not saying that.
you heard it here first, folks. Hitler, not that bad a guy. um, yeah. So when it comes to stuff like that, I think to myself, like, what's the like, because you mentioned like, oh, like it's kind of a how it affects other people also affects you type of deal.
Yeah,
It's kind of like how that's kind of how I view a lot of things in the world in the sense of like why things are good or bad, right? Like so the reason why like I feel like okay, like I shouldn't go around murdering people and
yeah,
then people will go around murdering me and we can punish people who do murder. And like everything's like super peachy, right?
yeah. And
And you can get that, and not even just like obviously major ones like that, but small things, even just acting nice and people act nice to you,
and
good,
and
good back.
and I don't align with Christianity. However, like the idea of who Jesus was and his teachings sounds positive to me. And
Yeah, he's definitely
and
a more positive figure than
yeah, and like this whole philosophy sounds a lot like one of his quotes: "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think
avenge.
and I don't think that that someone that's an agnostic like me shouldn't have an opinion like that, like the opinion that Jesus was good or Jesus had good teachings. I don't think those are mutually exclusive.
Look, all right, didn't you hear from Ted down at the church? Obviously, Jesus hates Mexicans. All right,
uh,
no,
I do have a problem with the Old Testament though, but that's a different story.
well, yeah, I mean that's like the entire civilization murdered in a flood and much other stuff. Like whatever, right? This isn't the religion podcast. So um, yeah, I mean, I think there's something worthwhile of like, hey, like you can look at these things. Like it's
Mhm.
kind of like you look at any story, right?
Yeah,
That's kinda how I view it because I don't believe, so at least at the very least, be willing to believe in a divine force, I guess.
yeah.
Not any of the current religions. I just don't like I don't know their explanations don't really do it for me.
Oh no, now it's crossing over with probably the end of this episode when we may or may not talk about simulation theory.
Ooh, yeah. To me, I don't really care too much.
Yeah,
Simulate.
yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're just here. We exist and we do
Like
stuff.
unless I somehow find out a way to be like, oh, this is how you break the simulation. But then it's like,
Buffer
like,
overflow.
all right.
Uh,
If I get one more trophy on PlayStation, no, I'll break the. Um,
Honestly, breaking the simulation would be so cool. I hope we do that someday. That would be cool.
well, it might be. It depends on what's outside the simulation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I mean, granted, I definitely want to because I mean that gets into the question of like, what is it? Ignorance is bliss versus like like knowing something but being what is it the cave parable or whatever,
Hmm.
pretty much that type of thing. But I mean I don't know something about like at a point it's like
I mean, who knows? The Matrix could be a documentary.
I mean like I don't know if I'd really want to live in the fucking Matrix world like outside of like I don't care that much.
Yeah. Well, would you take the red pill or the blue pill? I believe the red pill means that you ignore reality and just pretend that what you're in is actual base reality.
Yeah, I'd take that one then probably as long as like I actually got to because you could be like oh you didn't really experience it but it's like I don't know my brain experienced it right
Yeah.
big deal so like it's not the same as an experience but like it's the if the alternative is like risking
Oh,
my life daily against weird robots, like I think I'm good.
I got that backwards. Blue pill is remaining in contented in ignorance.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because everyone always says take the red pill, right?
But if you
Online.
have contented ignorance that lasts more than 4 hours, consult a doctor.
um, there was something else I was going to mention at one point. Oh, the path of redemption stuff, right? So like, the idea for that, right, is like you're trying to bring more good into the world, and
yeah,
that's what I was going with the one thing. So like, ideally, you'd want to leave a path of redemption so that more good could come of that. And not everyone's going to take the path of redemption, but like if you leave it open, you eventually bring more people over your side because
yeah,
because otherwise it's like you're constantly like making the the good side a smaller group doesn't help.
yeah,
It's good to weed out bad actors, but like if all you're doing is just make it smaller and smaller, that's not going to help us
yeah. We need to
achieve it.
be like converging instead of diverging.
Right. Like I'd
Um,
rather take someone who's like, like some like okay, have you heard this about that one dude? Like the um, I forget what he like. I forget his name. It's like an African American guy who would, in his race is relevant to the discussion because he would like befriend Ku Klux Klan
Why'd you
members.
mention it then, Boomer?
No, I'm saying it is
Is relevant. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah,
is
I
relevant.
misheard that.
Um, no, yeah, I hate when people do that.
Yeah,
Like when they,
yeah,
just, oh,
yeah. I have relatives that do that, and that's so annoying.
like I will if like they don't get like anything else from it.
Yeah,
Like, oh, here's the name, here's the height, here's the whatever, right?
yeah.
And then I'll just just for ease of
You might
conversation,
as
just go,
well
well,
write "I am racist" on your forehead when you say something like that. Oh,
yeah, sorry, no, but like because he was befriending like former Ku Klux Klan members or something,
yeah,
and like helping them move out for or what was it? He no, they were Ku Klux Klan members, and then help them get out of it, type of thing, right?
yeah,
So that's why it was because like obviously he's black, and that like it's a Ku Klux Klan, that's a bit of a
yeah. There's a documentary about that.
yeah. So like it's that type of thing where it's like yeah, like if I could take someone like that and maybe I don't make them all the get them all the way to where I am,
Yeah,
if I could just move them a little bit.
yep,
You know what I mean?
yep, yep. That's
That
a
can make that can make a world difference.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds good on paper. It's much harder in practice.
Right,
Um,
right. I wouldn't recommend like
and obviously, like our perspective as white people is way different than the experiences and perspective of someone that's black.
yeah,
So
and I don't mean that particular instance. I was
yeah,
just using that or that I was
yeah,
using that as an example of like leaving a path of redemption open for people that are like that seem like they're pieces of shit, right?
yeah.
Because
Um,
you can bring more, and that doesn't mean like every single person needs to go out. Like we don't need to go out of our way to be like to offer this person, like bend over backwards to offer this person a path of redemption.
yeah,
But like I'd say not doing the opposite, where you're just like going out of your way to like be like, no, fuck you, you suck,
yeah,
never, like that doesn't help anything.
yeah. Uh,
Well, it doesn't.
I was talking with a coworker today about the paradox of tolerance. And it's an interesting thought experiment. The paradox of tolerance states that if a society is tolerant without limit, its ability to be tolerant is eventually seized or destroyed by the intolerant. Thus, in order to maintain a tolerant society, the society must be intolerant of intolerance. So that's a mouthful, but basically, what it means is I'll give a practical example because this is something that I've been thinking about. So I consider myself moderate left. I think the extreme left is just as problematic as the extreme right because of their intolerance. Um, like the extreme right is, sorry, the extreme left is, like the extreme left is the
Like,
it gets to the point where like they're like capitalism bad, socialism good without any nuance, and that's a future episode right there.
yeah,
Um, so like there are just some opinions that are so extreme that they're counterproductive and unhelpful and and but basically like let's say you decide that the base truth for how someone's political leanings should be, like this is the ideal political leaning. Let's say you decide that the ideal political leaning is um, moderate left. That's probably what I would decide for myself. However, if you decide that the ideal is moderate left and that everyone should converge on that ideal, that what was previously moderate left now becomes center, because whenever everyone converges on something, then you have to recalibrate, and then the definition for left and right becomes skewed, and so that's basically a paradox. I don't know if that's directly related to the paradox of tolerance specifically, because that goes all the way back to Greek philosophy. It was one of Plato's thought experiments, but but um, but
I've heard of
that's
par-
that is definitely a paradox that I don't think can be solved. And so the only thing we can do is try to be respectful of other people and try to influence other people to be more, respectful. I think at the end of the day, that's like the summary of how we can solve most of the world's problems. It's an oversimplification,
I've
and
heard of like I know of the paradox of tolerance specifically. I didn't know about the one you were talking about, or at least I'd never thought of the one you were talking about.
I don't know if there's a name for it, but that's basically just my personal perspective. I really should have majored in philosophy because I love this stuff so much. But
Yeah.
then I wouldn't have a salary.
Well, yeah. Who wants a? What are your qualifications? I study philosophy. Get out of here.
And that's why I really want UBI to succeed, because I want a future where robots do most of the menial tasks, and then someone can major in philosophy without any anxiety about how they're going to pay for their expenses. Like that's the world that I want to live in, where someone can major in art or philosophy or dance or music and not have to worry about making a living. Like
It's
anyone
more.
on the planet. That's the goal. That's my goal. Speaking of, on my S server, which you guys should join at https:// meme, well, sme.me/discord. Yeah.
Jeez.
so I've been I just came up with this bounty system today. So I've been doing the
Yeah,
weekly Dogecoin giveaways,
is
and
I was like scrolling through that a little bit, like not much, but like I kind of
this is
I was
gonna
like skimming it, and I was like, what the hell is that about?
it's gonna be voluntary cheap labor. That's what it sounds like, but no, I want to make it as fair as possible. But basically, I want this is how I'm gonna implement UBI. I'm gonna implement UBI one step at a time, and I'm gonna start with the S server, and then I'm gonna expand to the MDDL server, and then get a bunch of other servers on board. That's my goal for UBI. I'm gonna do it in like the most shitposty gamer kind of way that I can, because that's my personality.
How many N words can you say in 1 minute
Oh
on
no!
call?
Oh god, that is not
You're
my
on Call of
personality.
Duty.
No.
The more you say, the more
Oh my
Dogecoin
god. Oh my god. No, 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 no. Uh all right, we are way off topic. We got 30 minutes left to talk about has science gone too far
has science gone too far with
with Dogecoin?
framing the N word? For Dogecoin?
Oh my god. Um
I don't think so, to be honest. I think
okay,
not
so
that. Just kidding. All right, yeah, let's go serious here.
so I was listening to a podcast on Sunday. Um yeah, on Sunday I was listening to a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a controversial guy because he's got kind of the Reddit virgin I am very smart vibe, but
Yeah,
at the same time he is very smart. So I mean, props to him. He can be a little overbearing on Twitter sometimes, but that's whatever. I can be a little overbearing. Everyone can be a little overbearing. So
fuck you, Asp.
he's overbearing in his own unique way, and honestly, he has so many interesting topics to talk about. So I'll give him a pass. He's a neckbeard at heart, but I love him. um, but
I mean, to be
anyway,
honest,
oh,
when it
go ahead.
comes to stuff like that, it's like I don't know, like yeah, I'm not gonna be friends with the guy, and it's like that's fair enough, but like
I would be friends
whatever.
with him.
If what he's saying is like correct or not, like just do it on the merits of what he's saying. Who cares?
Yeah, but anyway, he interviewed someone that's a researcher in CRISPR. Are you familiar with CRISPR?
That's the gene editing thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe it's specifically. Uh, I
I
think there's a
I know
subset of
about it.
CRISPR that deals with RNA programming.
Yeah, I know about it because there was a few years ago there was the thing about the deaf community, um, about gene editing, like so where people wouldn't be deaf, like being born deaf anymore.
Okay.
So some deaf people were like freaking out about that because obviously like they built a whole community around this disorder or well whatever disability whatever you want to call it. I mean, and some of them don't like referring it or referring to it as that because it's like oh we're just normal, it's just different, right?
Yeah, and I kind of
Uh,
agree with that. It's just like how there's basically like the autism community does not consider autism to be a disability. It autism is neurodivergence,
the
which I think is a really beautiful thing because you know people autistic people that like they can have a completely functioning life and and they can thrive and so uh
right.
like there are some like companies that are trying to make efforts towards curing autism and people that are autistic would argue that there is nothing to cure, that they are just fine exactly how they are, and I would agree with that too.
I think that's fair with autism. I don't know. I don't feel like it's fair when it comes to things that deal with the five major senses, like the loss of an entire sense. I don't
I
know. Like
Yeah, yeah. If I
that,
lost my sense of hearing, I would want it back for sure.
right. Well, that's what I think too. Like I feel like it'd be like obviously one never have many enforced. You know, we're not doing fucking eugenics. Not like I
Yeah.
don't care how useful hearing is. Like never fucking forced. But
Oh, guess what my next topic is?
yeah, forced eugenics. Woo! Does science go too
uh,
far? Um, yeah, but like like I have a disorder. We'll just say vaguely because whatever.
yeah.
And I wouldn't mind like gene splicing that the hell out. Like
Yeah. I
just because like yeah, there's like a culture around some of it. Definitely not as strong as some of the other cultures for sure. So that's part of it why. But also it's just like it's an inconvenience in my life, and it's just like
I
why not?
I I would very much I'm fairly convinced that I'm neurodivergent in some way. Neurodivergence is such a large umbrella. Um, and I don't know what it is yet. I suspect that I have autism, and I'm trying to figure that out with my therapist. Just like I don't know, like I just think differently, and I don't think it's I don't I don't consider it a superior way of thinking. I just think that I have certain advantages with the way that I think, and I also have certain disadvantages. Like one of the disadvantages is I overthink all the time. I have anxiety. Um, uh, like I'm very mechanical about how I think about things, including like social relationships, uh, to my detriment in some situations. Like I'm just I'm just a quote unquote weird person, and I'm coming to terms with that because it definitely has its strengths. Like, but yeah, I don't think I want to change that. I like who I am.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, you get that type of thing. Like every little bit of our environment shapes us into who we are. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, like the degree to which something shapes you is, fucking varies widely.
yeah. I
You know,
I
would you
definitely
be the same person if you didn't like a particular type of music or a particular show or like you had a particular hobby that you like? You know, maybe like you ride horses or something, or yeah, you know what I mean. Like, I'm just listening to a bunch of random things
yeah.
at the point.
I
Yeah.
I this is just an intuition that I have and may not be based in reality, but I suspect that our understanding of neurodivergence will evolve over time to the point where we realize that everyone has some dimension in which they're neurodivergent. That may be a stretch.
That to me just sounds more like it's just biodiversity at that point.
Yeah, yeah, it's analogous to that for sure. My intuitive assumption, but that intuition could be wrong.
Mm.
Sometimes intuition is just wrong.
Mr. Science over here thinks he's so smart with his science degree that he has in engineering.
I'm I'm just a programmer.
Yeah, but that is a science degree. I mean, it's not,
Yeah,
biology,
yeah.
but
I did hate the science aspects, like writing research papers and stuff like that.
yeah,
So that's not for
I
me. But I definitely admire it, and long term I want to empower other people to do general research. Like that's something that I really want to do is just let people do general research and like pay them at a loss. Like I'm not going to make money from that, but if I have extra money to give them, then I'll do it.
actually, to be fair, I didn't hate the research papers. I hated the stupid statistics class.
Oh, I hated statistics so much, but it's so relevant to my job right now, and I really wish I had paid attention in statistics. Like it's,
Yeah, but it's
oh,
like, God, it's such a pain in the ass. And
oh.
it's not even like it's a lot of times the programs that they have you use are just like I don't know.
My professor was a real hard ass, so that's probably why I hated it. Like she was like, oh my god, like I made like a 40 on one of the exams, and I that was the highest score.
Yeah.
Oh my god, like her her grading rubric was way miscalibrated in my opinion. But I
That's fair.
mean, she was a great teacher, and really, I wouldn't say empathetic, but like yeah, she was a great teacher. I liked her, but oh my god, like that was a rough class.
Okay, did you want to do you want to talk about horror stories from college before we wrap this one up and we start the next one?
Sure, and then we'll speed run eugenics and simulation theory.
Yeah, we'll do that for the second. Yeah, because
Oh,
for those listening at home, we're recording two of these back to back because we're a bit
yeah, this is our
behind.
new strategy to make sure that we release episodes consistently.
Yeah.
So you won't see anything because we're not on Facecam, but we'll be wearing the same clothes for both episodes.
What do you mean? I always wear the same clothes.
uh,
One pair of clothes.
uh,
Um. Okay, so there's this one teacher I had like for a sociology class. It sucked. Like it was just awful. Like first of all, okay, so did you do any of your stuff online or was it all like in person?
I may have had like one or two online classes, but that was not the norm.
Okay, were any of the ones that were in person were they online like assisted? Like you had to turn in work online, but like type of deal?
Um, I'm trying to
Hybrid.
think. I don't think so. I don't think I had any hybrid classes.
Okay.
It was like 2010 to 2015 that I was yeah, 2010 to
Okay. Well,
2015. So maybe a little bit before hybrid classes were really mainstream.
okay, fair enough. So so yours was down pencil paper type of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was computer science, so a lot of it was digital. So,
Okay, well anyway, way to ruin the top. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding. Whatever. This is one teacher, right, for sociology, and like normally there's like this one main website for college work. You know, some of the colleges have different websites. Like one's like Canvas, and the one's Blackboard or something. Whatever. There's like a few
yeah,
different sites.
Blackboard. Yeah, we use Blackboard.
Yeah. Okay. So like I can't see. I can't remember which college used which, but like anyway. So like the
Oh, we did have online submissions. I guess that you would consider that hybrid.
okay. Yeah. So that's what I mean.
Okay.
So like yeah, anyway. So you're at least familiar enough with online submissions.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So like so we had like that like normal like all the classes had that, which isn't a problem. But then like this teacher had like two other websites she wanted you to go to, and it's like that's just a giant pain in the ass, especially because like the due dates because normally it's like okay you get reminders of like what's due each week.
Uh huh.
If you look at like what's actually due and it's like okay it's these things so I know to work on these things, but this class had a you turn like you do the work kind of on your own, but you do it like in a particular like it was so weird. Like here's a website you have to write like a 500 word thing every week.
Oh, turnitin.com.
No, it wasn't even turning in. No, it was like some stupid
Okay.
fucking sociology thing. Like some weird like it was anonymous.
Yeah.
Like you marked yourself as anonymous and then you would post it and then people would post replies on yours and you'd post replies on other people's. Also like
Uh,
500 words. It was like had to do it specific times of the week, and you also had to do these tests, but like none of them were actually due till the end of the semester. But you could do them whenever you want, but they're kind of due by the end of the week, but kind of not. Like it was a jumbled mess. Like
I'm familiar with the peer grading thing. I don't remember if I've ever done that, but I'm familiar with the concept.
I've never seen another class, or because I've done all my classes like on. There's like one class I had to go in person quite a bit
Yeah.
on like every second Friday or something. Um, for like it was either a test or a lab. Like every other 1 week was the test, and the other week was lab back and forth for like an environmental class. But so like it's like I had to turn in all this stuff right, and like whatever weekly it works. So it's like it's hard keeping track of it anyway. And then like it's a bunch of annoying writing, but then also like it was really weird. Like it wasn't just answering questions normally, or like hey do a prompt on this. It was like do a prompt that kind of had to deal with what we talked about, and make sure that here's like a list of keywords.
Yeah.
You have to use some at least some of them, like a minimum of like I don't know like three or something, right? And they have to be defined in the work, but like not like just straight up definition. Like they have to be defined in a certain way. Like I don't know. It was like really stupid.
Hmm.
And like I hated it. I just hated it.
Oh
Like the
yeah.
teacher, like so I did that the whole semester, right?
Hmm.
And I kind of saved the I'd save the test for last because I could just do them whenever.
Hmm.
And then it's like she's like, oh, like they're due Monday or whatever, right? So it's like okay, well I was gonna do it Monday. This was like near the end of the semester. So then I wake up like the Friday or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, she sends an email to me and other people, I guess, like, oh, actually they were already due technically, because like the online classes end before the in person ones do.
Hmm.
And she's like, oh, like actually, whatever they're already due, whatever. I graded your stuff. You got an A. I'm like, I didn't do like any of the tests like at all, so it's like, there's no way, like statistically, there's no way I got an A. But I was like, I'm just not gonna correct her. Like, you know what? That's so your error. I hated that class with a passion because it was like the most mismanaged classes I've ever had in my life.
I think one of maybe one of my more frustrating experiences was we had a class where it was a programming class, and basically the teacher had us write all the code on paper and turn
Ugh,
that in. And I have no idea why. I still have no idea why that would have been preferred to doing it, you know, digitally. I have no idea. But he was really elderly, so maybe it's easier for him to read it on paper. I don't know. But I mean, he was
weird.
great. He was a great professor. I liked him. Uh, but yeah, the the thing that is was most frustrating about the computer science program, and I suspect that this is probably true at other schools too. Um, while the computer science curriculum gave some background knowledge that's essential for
Work and stuff.
yeah for work, um, most of the most of the stuff that I know for work is stuff that was self-driven. So I had to do, or I didn't have to do. I was motivated to do um, a bunch of side projects for myself because I was interested in doing them. And I think that's the only reason I ended up on such a successful career path. And I think anyone that wasn't self-driven in that way ended up at a mediocre job. And I think that's something that maybe it's a universal problem for computer science curriculums, maybe not. But at my
Mm.
school, I definitely don't think that that was done correctly. I think I
Uh,
think there could have been a lot more practical lessons that would have been directly applicable to jobs. Like, I won't go into detail, but I can make a gigantic list of things that they should have taught us.
I have to wonder, is it maybe like because it's such a newer emerging field?
Maybe
Well, like technology, like obviously like upgrades all the time. So I have to wonder if maybe something like that.
I think there's not a lot of collaborations between universities, uh, and so I think each university is kind of in a bubble. However, that's changing because of the internet. Because places like Harvard and MIT, they have their entire computer science curriculum available online, including the assignments, the lectures, and that's available to anyone in the world for free. So anyone could just like follow through the entire curriculum for computer science at MIT and become a good computer scientist. And
It's pretty
their
dope.
curriculum is actually really good. Like they do really practical stuff like AI and um, uh, you know, uh,
That's super dope, man. I didn't know that.
yeah, like if you want to learn computer science and you don't want to go to school, I would just recommend going to mit.edu and learning it there. Like that's probably the like you could become a computer scientist for free. Obviously, you wouldn't have the degree, but if you spent like a few months or years studying that in your free time, and then like maybe did a boot camp. Boot camp is basically where you go and you do like intense study and practice with a group of people, and
Right.
it's basically like a speed run for being able to be hired in computer science field. Um,
Right.
so,
Yeah, and even if you didn't do that, I'm sure you could probably find some jobs where like you're like, hey, do have this experience.
yeah, you can freelance or you can work on side projects and just build experience that way. That's another valid
Yeah.
path.
And then when you have the experience, like for other places, you'd be like, yeah, I have like 5 years experience doing this. So like, cool,
Yeah.
because they usually want experience more than they want the degree anyway.
Speaking of, let's speed run eugenics. oh,
Oh, I was gonna,
oh, you
yeah,
had more.
no, I meant like in terms of like saving that for like the next episode.
Oh, no, no, but this is the has science gone too far? Unless we wanted to abandon that.
Well, that might be worth
Its own
say,
episode.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well,
We
this
can just a
episode
little
was a mess, but that's our gimmick. So,
because
so that's
I think
fine.
it's gonna take a while, but you know what I mean. Like, we're kind of already at the point where it's like cut off. So
Um, do we want to? Do we want to end it here then, or do we want to talk about something else?
I feel like I killed the fucking
No,
discussion.
no, 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 no. That's fine. Um, um,
um,
how about this? Let's actually speed run eugenics, and we can talk about it in more depth in a future episode if we wanted to.
Eugenics, not good if forced, but like if people want to like voluntarily do stuff, that's cool with me.
I'm not sure where I stand on that. Okay, so the Neil deGrasse Tyson podcast episode about CRISPR. So basically the takeaway was okay. So one of the takeaways was even if COVID-19 didn't happen, it was bound to happen anyway. Either a natural, either there would be another natural pandemic that broke out, which is fairly likely. It seems to happen like once every 100 years.
Hmm.
We don't have a lot of data, but it seems to happen every 100 years. Um, and that rate might speed up over time just because we're more of a global society now. Travel is extremely easy and affordable.
Yeah.
Um, however, what is an even bigger threat is the concept of human engineered viruses that have the potential to be pandemic level and the potential to be much more deadly. So COVID-19 is,
Human engineered? You mean like COVID-19? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, so in an absolute sense, COVID-19 is extremely deadly because it's killed almost 3 million people, I think maybe more at this point. So on an absolute scale, COVID-19 is deadly. On a relative
Right.
scale, it's not very deadly because the death rate is very
Yes,
low.
that's pretty high. Yeah.
However, it's an extremely annoying pandemic because it's in that sweet spot. It's like it's like the optimal strategy in like those pandemic video games, like the Flash games. It's the
Yeah.
optimal strategy where it's just inert enough to where people don't make a big deal out of it on a personal level, but it's just deadly enough to where it causes, global problems, economy problems, and mental health, and all the other stuff that we're gonna unravel over the next decade, probably. Um,
Yeah. This is gonna be a great time growing up. Eh?
yeah, this really sucks. Like this really sucks for so many people. But anyway, um, soon we're going to have an arms race between mRNA vaccine technology that will much more rapidly be able to create vaccines to combat the growing industry of human engineered viruses. So we're going to have an arms race. And I think it's going to get to the point where people will have an appliance in their home that downloads the sequence for a vaccine, and then creates a vaccine dose for people to self-administer. I I think that is kind of plausible. Like I think in like 20 to 30 years, that might be an
See,
appliance that people have in their home.
I disagree, and only
Okay.
because I feel like in terms of technology, I could see that happening, but in terms of like the healthcare industry being a bunch of like like greedy fucks, I
Oh,
don't see it.
well, I think there's going to be an open source solution. That's the solution around. That's like how we get around greedy companies is open source this.
Right?
It's not a perfect solution, but I
Maybe.
I think it's plausible. But anyway, so we're gonna have that arms race, and I'm I'm suspecting that wearing masks when you're indoors in public is going to be uh, something that's gonna be here to stay. Unfortunately, I think maybe there's gonna be times in regions of the world where we won't have to wear masks indoors in public, but I think like if you look at the number of flu cases last year versus the number of flu cases this year, it's obvious that masks have a huge benefit. And I think if people get used to it, just like how in East Asia, wearing a mask in public is extremely common, I think that's going to be the new global norm, unfortunately. But I don't necessarily think that that means that we're not going to return to normal. I just think that that's going to be a
Uh,
mitigation that we have to use in the future again and again
oh, you mean as like more like things come out?
for future pandemics. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought you just meant like in general, like
No, no, no.
what, like
I think we're gonna. I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel for COVID-19, but I think
right, right,
the rate of pandemics is going to increase unless people change and people stop being selfish
right.
and actually grow some common sense. If that happens, then maybe we won't have to deal with that kind of stuff. But I'm pessimistic about that.
I think I wouldn't mind still using masks in terms of
Yeah.
if I'm sick or something, right? Which doesn't happen too often, but like if I could tell I'm getting sick, like I hope that that becomes more of a thing. Like when people are sick, like start wearing masks.
Yeah, at this point, I'm fully vaccinated, and basically, whenever I go outside, like walking or hiking, I don't wear a mask on my face, but I keep it in my pocket just in case I
Yeah,
need
just
it. And
right,
I
right.
and
Like
I
if
I,
you go to a high
I
school or
think we're at
something.
the point where that's okay. It's an extremely political issue, unfortunately, and so now we kind of flipped to where like Democrats are not wearing masks and Republicans are, to spite the Democrats, which is so weird.
I'm
Um,
cool.
but I'm also perfectly okay with wearing a mask whenever I'm in the grocery store.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't. The thing, God, the one I need to get a better mask or something
I, I
because it messes with my nose. Like it makes it so damn itchy. Like, cause it just the way it hangs, it just like hits it just barely enough to like be a giant nuisance. Like it doesn't
yeah.
press up against it all
Honestly,
the
I'm,
way.
I'm gonna start pushing my mask merch again. I kind of gave up on that, but I think I'm gonna push it again, just because of like the scenario that I outlined. I don't think people are gonna warm up to that idea though. It takes a really open minded person to warm up to that idea, I think. Um, But anyway, okay, so let's speed run because we have 6 minutes left. Okay, so CRISPR, we're gonna have genetically engineered babies that can, and we're gonna be able to do anything we
So,
want at some point.
right. Just the way you started it made it almost sound like an Alice Jones, right? We're gonna have
Okay, well, yeah, it's starting to sound like that, but okay,
genetically
so
engineered baby.
we'll link the podcast in the description, and you guys just watch that podcast, and then watch more Random Ramblings podcasts, of course. But
What?
okay, so the idea is like we're very close to being able to create a baby that is completely immune to HIV, and we're going to be able to completely eliminate diseases, maybe even for like adults. Like one by one, we're going to eliminate cancer, we're going to eliminate HIV, and then at that point, the sky's the limit. And at that point, like, we're literally going to become gods, and the only thing holding us back will be morals and ethics that we ourselves invented. And at that point, I think the world's going to be a very, very scary place. Like, when every single individual has the power to change whatever they want like that, it's literally going to be like the Thanos meme. Reality can be whatever I want. Like,
Mm.
that's literally the future that I see. I could be wrong, but that's the future that I see, and
I'm
that's extremely scary.
skeptical. I'm skeptical on the cancer front, just because isn't the idea with cancer usually because it's like a cells get all fucked up.
Well, we've kind of catapulted mRNA research like to the moon with COVID-19 vaccine research, and we are actually really close to some types of cancers having a vaccine, and
Ooh,
it's an mRNA vaccine. So that is very much a thing, as far as I understand. So I could be wrong. Fact check me on this in the comments. Leave a comment and subscribe so that you can fact check me in future episodes as well, and fact checked themes.
we need
Uh,
a we need a is it like Joe Rogan, like a Jamie?
yeah. Jamie, pull that up.
Exactly.
But okay, so I'm gonna leave you with this last thought. You're familiar with the Fermi Paradox?
You've mentioned it before, I
Many times,
think.
probably. Okay, so the Fermi Paradox is basically, um, if if life emerges like it does on Earth, and planets are extremely common, and the conditions for life are theoretically common, and we can get into the Drake equation, but that's a different topic. But the question is, why haven't we found aliens yet? Why have we not seen Dyson spheres? Because we know how to look for Dyson spheres, and um, theoretically, Dyson spheres are inevitable if a spacefaring civilization tries to spread throughout the galaxy. Um, One of the most plausible explanations that I've come across myself is simulation theory. When when a civilization gets sufficiently advanced, they create what is equivalent to humanity's internet. And once they create the internet, they start creating video games. Once they create video games, those video games become more and more realistic. And this eventually converges to the point where video games are just as realistic as real life, if not more so. Because once we have stuff like Neuralink, we're going to be able to overwrite visual signals in the brain, and we're going to be able to create visual acuity that is better than real life. Like, we're going to have a field of vision and resolution that surpasses what our actual human eyes have. And this is all just hypothetical,
Yeah.
but once we get to that point, like, what's the point in going to another star system if we can just harness energy in this star system and create more and more intricate simulations? And once we do that, um, you know, there's no plausible reason to deny that we ourselves are already in a simulation. So I think that's the end game. I think is we're going to create a simulation, and that's where that's where we're going to live. We're going to live in the digital world, and that's where we spend the rest of eternity until the heat death of the universe. That's my vision of the future, and I could be very wrong there, but I like to think
Yeah.
about that a lot.
Um, because there's no way to really test that.
Yeah, there's no way to test that except do it, and that's what I want to do.
I mean, I'd be cool, to be honest, just because the idea of permanent death is I mean, we talked about it before. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
not.
I think I think if I have the option to live forever or the option to die, then the option to die just sounds like suicide, and that doesn't sound good.
Uh,
I don't know. That's something that I'm gonna have to think about for a few more years.
and Lee, and you get your rest of your life to think it through.
Oh, oh,
That's terrible.
oh man, the future is terrifying. It's so
Um,
terrifying,
oh,
but it's
yeah,
also
it'd be
exciting. It's terraciding.
just, geez, that's future is bad and wrong. We should invent a new word. The
Okay,
future
I'm
is good.
tweeting that.
It's terraciting.
Terraciting. How do you spell that? That's how you spell it. The future is terraciting. Okay, it's a tweet. I wonder if that sentence has been spoken before. I'm gonna Google it. The future is terraciting. Nope. That is a brand new sentence.
Okay, search the word terraciting. See if you can get like put it in quotes. See if pops up anywhere.
Okay, there are 57 hits for terraciting, but there's 0 hits for the future is terraciting. However, soon there will be 1 hit whenever it picks up my tweet.
Ooh, you know what to do, people in the comments. If you end up watching this,
I'm gonna have to link this on my website so that it gets backlinked.
go to his profile, like it, share it, comment on it.
Oh my god. Okay, well that. Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry, I drove most of that, so you drive the next one. but yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone, and tune in next week where we talk about video games and virtual worlds. Not next week. 2 weeks from now.
Our next week, but not your.
Yeah, not your next week. Our next. No, it's our 5 minutes from now. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Smash that like button. I really hope you enjoy these podcasts because we enjoy making them.
All right. Send it.